Good afternoon, guys. It's Workin, bringing you a quick update on Bitcoin. Hope you guys are having a wonderful afternoon. Before we get going, guys, as always, want to send a shout out to everyone that has left a tip on the channel, guys. Really do appreciate it. Certainly, it's never required, never feel obligated, but it's always appreciated. Gary in 1912, thank you, man. Appreciate the tip. Little Ballerina 42, thank you very much. Coleman 358, man, appreciate it. Actually, thank you very much, Coleman 358, very generous. And Head of State 57, man, that does sound official. Hopefully, you're not with the IRS. Just kidding, guys. Always pay the taxes. Actually, I usually end up paying more than I should in taxes, just because, hey, it beats an audit, and why not, man? All right, this is Bitcoin to the US dollar. We're looking at the one-day chart on Coinbase, and last time we spoke, guys. Again, always try to remember, I always want to start off with where we were last time, and so I hold myself accountable, and you guys know that I'm holding myself accountable. And I believe the last time we spoke, yeah, actually I had to go back and look it up. Last time we spoke, guys, was Bitcoin was actually trading almost where it is right now. It was trading right around 7,900-ish, somewhere thereabouts, guys. We were starting to put in what looked like a possible head and shoulders pattern, which of course would have been a bearish pattern, guys. But you know, as of now, it's not playing out. You know, has it been completely invalidated now? For those of you that are unfamiliar, I know we've got traders of all levels, guys. So please, you know, I certainly appreciate you guys just giving me a minute here to kind of explain things for the newer traders out here. Head and shoulders is a bearish pattern, guys, typically, and this is what it looks like here. This is kind of what we were painting. And when Bitcoin dropped here yesterday, it did look like that may end up playing out, guys, but of course it did not. We had a decent bounce off this area, and how impressive has that $7,500 support been? Really, it's between about 7,600 and 7,500, but extremely impressive. We've had now three major tests. If I just pull in here to the 4-hour chart, you can see we've had three major tests. We've had it back here on the 4th, again on the 6th, and then of course again yesterday on the 9th. All, as of now, has held. Now, we have to remember, guys, every single time a support is tested, that support gets weaker and weaker. So, you know, every time it gets tested, guys, the odds of it breaking become greater. So, you know, we certainly am not telling you to immediately become bullish here, but I do have to say this is fairly impressive, and we're seeing a lot of games being played in the market. Oftentimes, you'll see patterns like this that are painted on Bitcoin that do not end up following through, that actually end up following through the opposite of what you're seeing. And you see that because market makers are very often trying to, you know, the market has a way of making the suckers out of the most people, as we talked about numerous times, guys. And so market makers, unlike in 2018, where there were a ton of guppies in the market, where it was very easy for them to take money, the most people that are in the market now have been burned and have learned. So they're either, you know, they're very conservative. They're getting in, they get out. You can't really take them. You know, they're not going to have your bags unloaded on them as easy as it was. So you have to do things like this: paint a head and shoulders pattern, have it look extremely bearish, and then take it in the opposite direction. And so, you know, be very careful anytime you're seeing something like that, and especially if you're seeing a bunch of people on YouTube start telling you that we're heading down to, you know, whatever, based off of that pattern. That is very just be careful. Oftentimes it'll break in the opposite direction of what that pattern is showing. Doesn't mean you don't look at it. Certainly you take it in consideration, guys. Certainly you prepare for it, but don't bet the house on it. Is all we're saying. So we had a nice bounce off to 7,500, guys. It bounced up to exactly where we would expect. We're continuing to trade within this zone, between the bottom of which sits at about 8150, and really it's between about 8150 and 8250 that this resistance remains intact. And I also, something else I don't want to do, on my last updates, guys, I painted this area of resistance from 8150 down to about 8400. I've now reduced it down to about 8250, because I do feel, the more I'm looking at this, I do feel if we get a 4-hour candle opening and closing above 8250, this shifts in favor of the bulls. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not telling you that I'm bearish in the moment, guys. I'm telling you that we're continuing to trade within a zone, and all you can do is trade that zone until we have a decisive break. So the two areas that we're looking is now going to be the top of which sits at about 8250. Really, it's 82. If we get an open and close about 8200, it's going to get my attention, and more than likely that's going to get more than likely if we get a 4-hour candle opening and closing about 8200, I do think we're going to come up and test this area right here, right around 8500, 8600, somewhere in this area right here. I do think that's a very likely target if we get a 4-hour candle opening and closing above 8,200. Really, the top of which is 8,250, but 8,200 is good enough for me. To the downside, guys, we're still watching this $7,500 support. As of right now, we did have a rejection. We did put in a, again, as of right now, this could change, but we have put in a lower high. Again, we're just looking on the much smaller time frames here. We did put in a lower high, not quite coming up as high as this prior test here. So again, we'll have to wait and see kind of how this ends up playing out. If we come over here and we look at the RSI, RSI does look like it may be starting to paint a little bit of bearish divergence, again, on the 4-hour MACD. We're not seeing it on the RSI, sorry, guys, I think I did say RSI initially. Not on the RSI. On the MACD, on the MACD here, we are painting a little bit of bearish divergence, not much, just slight, and that would suggest that we may be coming back down and at least testing about 8,200 to about 8,230-ish, possibly. Again, we'll have to kind of have to wait and see how this plays out. But as of right now, guys, I'm remaining agnostic. I know that's extremely frustrating to hear, but until we do, as I said yesterday, until we do break below 7,500 or above 8,200 to 8,250, until one of those is decisively taken out, again, not by a wick, but a 4-hour candle opening and closing above 8,200 or below 7,500. Until one of those two things happens, I'm going to assume that we're going to continue to trade this range. Now, can you get some decent scalp trades in here? Buying anywhere above 7,900 to 8,000 and selling down here between 7,700 and 7,600. Sure, you could try and play that, guys. But again, the longer that goes on, the less likely it's going to continue. So you'd be a little bit you're a little bit late to the game if that's the game you're trying to play. Now, for those of you scalp and or day traders, not really talking to the swing traders, the long-term holders, but for those scalp and or day traders, an area that I'm watching here, if we go swing high, swing low, from our 990 high, $9,090 high down to our swing low here of approximately 74.18 was what we wicked down to. We can see that we're finding resistance right there at that 382. Again, this is from our swing high to our swing low. We're finding resistance right there at that 382. Now, of course, it was taken out a bit by a wick here, but why am I pointing this out? I'm pointing this out because if you're looking to front run, and especially if you're a scalp trader, but even you day traders out there, guys, front running is, spotting a good front run is basically how you're going to make the majority of your money. So if you're trying to front run this thing to the upside, if I get a 4-hour candle that closes above 38.2 and especially above the 382 fib, which is sitting at about $8,060, $8,065 to play it safe. If I get a 4-hour candle opening and or at least closing above 8,060 I call it 8,065, especially if I get a 4-hour candle both opening and closing above 8,065, and you get the chance to buy into that. In other words, it starts consolidating and it doesn't just break out, and you get a chance to buy into that. That, in my opinion, would be a very good front run signal. Now, I'd have your stop very tight, but that would be a very good front run signal to at least coming up and testing about 82.50. So it'd be a decent little scalp, especially if you're trading on leverage. That's kind of what I'm going to be keeping an eye on there, right around $8,060. Now, again, if you're not an experienced trader, just disregard that. But for those, I know we've got all kinds of levels that are listening to this, guys, and that's kind of the area that I'm keeping an eye on right now. You could even eyeball it here and see it, but when you pull the fib, it just kind of really hits that area home. So I'm watching and waiting as a possible front run opportunity there. All right, zooming back out on the 4-hour, looking down, guys, we go swing low, swing high. Again, this is from our from this latest little overall microstructure here, not microstructure, for the overall structure here. We can see that we're sitting we're finding support right on top of that 7,500. Obviously, what you could eyeball that support level. It's been resistance, support quite a few times, but it's also sitting right above the 382, which again sits almost to the dollar, right at about 7,000. Depending on exactly where you're drawing the wick, but it's right at about 7,500 there. So again, this is why you're finding such a strong area of support here, and this is why if we do break this down to the downside decisively, in other words, a 4-hour candle opening and closing below 7,500, I do believe that'll be significant, and I do believe we're going to find ourselves down between 7,200 and 7,000 very, very quickly, which coincidentally or not so coincidentally enough happens to be the 50. The 0.5 fib level sits right at 7,000. That's a good psychological base. That's a good technical base, and that's also lining up perfectly with our fib. So certainly, could I see a bounce somewhere between 7,200 and 7,000? Absolutely. Am I going to be laddering in buys there between 7,200 and 7,000? Absolutely. Am I going to have a tight stop loss? Absolutely. So again, for all these reasons, guys, and when I actually, you know what? that's going to be relative, because I can see this thing coming down and wicking below 7,000 very quickly, something like we saw back in here on May the 17th. So yeah, I will have a tight stop loss, but I'll probably have a laddering stop loss, and it'll probably be fairly deep, to be fair here, guys. I'm going to wait and see how we get down there, whether we dump or whether we ladder our way down there if we do break that 7,500. I'm not saying we're coming down there, guys. Please, I'm saying if we break that 7,500 decisively, I do think we're coming down here, and how we get down there will be very, very telling as far as how I end up trading that. But for now, just generally, yes. Do I think it's a good buy to ladder in between 7,200 to 7,000 for a quick swing trade up to about 74 to 7,500? Absolutely. Pulling out on the weekly chart, guys, you know, I have to say the weekly chart ended up closing yesterday. Last week's candle ended up closing a little bit more bullish than I thought. We did end up closing above that $7,500, 75, even 7,600 at the top of that support level there. What did we close at? Approximately 7635, 7635. So yeah, that was a little more bullish than I thought. And of course, we're getting a little springboard off that now. Of course, it is springing up into resistance, which is showing resistance now. It has been rejected off that resistance. So again, it's, you know, a little more of a neutral play, but I have to say it's a little. The bulls are putting up more of a fight than I had anticipated, guys, especially coming off this doji 2 weeks ago. So yeah, I have to say this is, until we break 7,500 here decisively, guys, you know, the bulls are not out of the fight, not yet. Now, do I think we're going to come back down here to 7,000 to 7,200 eventually? I do. I absolutely do think we will. In fact, I pointed this out before. If we come over here and we look at our let me go to the 4 hour, because you can certainly see it better. There we go. Looking at CMEs, guys, coming out to the 4 hour. Again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but we've got this nice gap that's just sitting right here, waiting to be filled, asking to be filled. Do I think it will be? Yeah. Probability. Does it have to? No. Probability says it will, though. So eventually, even if we're coming up here, even testing the high, even making a new high, probability says that at some point in time, we are going to come back down here and fill this gap. All right, looking at the daily chart, looking at our moving averages, exponential moving averages, checking Bollinger Bands, guys, we can see that we're finding resistance right at the 21 EMA. And until we take out this 21-day EMA, guys, it is, you know, in my opinion, it is. I don't want to get too bullish on this yet. Are the bulls out of the fight? Absolutely not. And I'm not saying that I'm bearish either. I'm just saying this 21 exponential is critical, guys. We can see the 21. If I just zoom out here, guys, the 21 exponential, since we had this break up above it back in February, on February the 8th, it's been our saving grace. This has been the area of support all throughout this bull run here. And then, of course, we broke that on on June 4th. So what was that? About 6 days ago. And then what happened? We came back up and we tested it, and again got rejected, and we're testing it again. So we really need, if the bulls are making any kind of a comeback, obviously we need to take out the 21-day EMA. But that is very significant in my opinion. So until we do get a daily candle opening and closing above the 21-day EMA here, guys, not just wicking above like we've seen here, not just closing above, even though a close will certainly get my attention, but until we get a daily candle both opening and closing, which would be a decisive break, until that happens, guys, be very careful. Be very careful here. I know every time we get a bounce here, everyone wants to get extremely bullish. That was it. That was the bottom. And maybe it is this time. I'm not going to tell you that it's not, but until we decisively take out the 21-day EMA or take out 7,200 decisively, or excuse me, 8,200 decisively, until one of those two things happen, it's just, which, obviously would be one of the same, because we'd have to take out the 21 to take out 82. Brilliant Workin. Thank you. Taking a bow. But until that, sometimes you say stuff, you don't realize how stupid it is until you kind of say it out loud, and you go, yeah, that's just genius. But until that does happen, guys, it's, just be very careful. Be very careful. Swing trades, scalp trades, but do not go all in. All right, we're also watching the 8-day EMA, looking like it wants to cross down below the 21-day EMA. They're literally sitting right on top of each other right now, guys. So again, if we do get that cross to the downside, if price does end up collapsing here, and we do get that cross to the downside eventually on the close today, that would be a bearish sign of weakness. And just one more thing to keep an eye on. Of course, we're rejecting also off the 20 simple moving average up here, which is just this the center line of the Bollinger Bands. So again, all things to keep an eye on. All right, checking, let's see, the 4-hour chart, smaller time frames here, guys. Yeah, we are getting rejected right at the 50 period, the simple 50 period moving average here on the 4-hour chart. Rejected right at the top of the upper Bollinger Band there as well. We are seeing Bollinger Bands restricting, as I think we talked about last time, and we're also seeing the 821 and 55-day EMA all converging, as well as the 50 simple and the 200 simple also converging. So this does suggest, when when you've got these moving averages converging on top of one another in conjunction with the tightening of the Bollinger Bands here on the 4-hour chart, that does suggest a larger move is coming. Let's checking volume. Volume sitting at about 19.2 billion on the day. So again, that is, compared to where we were, that is, that is showing people are probably just holding their positions and waiting to see which direction this thing breaks. Now, one thing to keep an eye on is this 50 simple moving average and the 200 on the 4-hour. If we get a death cross, which is the 50 simple moving average crossing below the 200 simple moving average. Now, again, this is only on the 4-hour chart, so I don't want to send any major alarm bells or anything. But that would suggest there would be a bearish indication in the smaller time frames, and would suggest that very likely we're going to be heading down to test that $7,200 to $7,000 range. So just something to keep an eye on in the next couple days. But it does look to me like in the next couple days, guys, we are going to get a fairly larger move, either up or down. Again, I know that's frustrating to hear from an analyst, guys, but again, we are trading that range. I don't know what, I don't have a crystal ball. All I can tell you is to make a plan, know the key areas to watch. That's why we're talking about them, and then have a plan to execute once those areas are taken out. All right, let's quickly check longs and shorts. Where are we here? Checking shorts. Shorts dropping off just a little bit, nothing too substantial at all. Checking longs. Longs look about the same. Just basically moving sideways for the most part. So again, lackluster volume, really steady volume. Now overall, if we're looking at the last 6 months, certainly volume is definitely up. But if we're looking at the last month, basically stagnant volume, stagnant longs and shorts, converging moving averages, as well as Bollinger Bands here. So guys, that does suggest we're going to very likely see a larger move here in the next, in the next 24 to 72 hours, in my opinion. Does that mean it has to happen? Of course not. Nothing has to happen in cryptocurrency. Is that probable? Yeah, it does look like it is. All right, so to wrap Bitcoin up in a bow here, guys, watching this area right here, guys, if we do break up above if we do break above about 8,200 decisively, by decisively, I'm talking smaller time frames, 4-hour candle opening and closing above 8,200. At that point, I'm going to be looking for a move to between about between about 8,500 and 8,600. If we get a daily candle opening and closing above about 8,650, I do think we're going to take another shot at the high here at 9,090. And if we do take a shot, I do think it very likely gets taken out, and we do set a new high. Where would that new high be? I mean, just eyeballing it, guys, I'd say I'd be looking for a shot up to about anywhere between about 9,500 and 9,700. To the downside, if we do get a 4-hour candle opening and closing below 7,500, I think it's going to be a very quick drop down to let me try to speak here, down to about 7,200 to about 7,000. That's again where I'm going to be looking for a nice little bounce. Will that bounce hold? I do think it's going to bounce, but will that be the bottom? We'll have to wait and see on the retest of this. What is acting as support should act as resistance on that retest. If it does not, if we take out 7,500 to the upside, that'll be a confirmed bottom. If we get a rejection at that 7,500, I do think it'll quickly come back down, very likely take out on a second attempt, take out 7,000, and then I think coming down to between 6,600 and 6,500. So these are kind of the areas just to watch on Bitcoin, kind of give you an idea of what I'm looking at. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap Bitcoin there. Quickly moving on to EOS. EOS looks, let's see, we are below, it is getting rejected also at the 21-day EMA, or excuse me, we're on the 4-hour. Let's get to the daily. There we go. So yeah, it was rejected on the 21-day EMA here, guys, a couple days ago. Coming back up. It does actually look like it wants to possibly test again the 21-day EMA. That'd be at about $6.61-ish, somewhere thereabouts. And that also has some nice confluence, which what looks like a decent area of resistance here. If we just look at that, looking at that area, what does look like a decent area of resistance. So yeah, if we can close above, let me zoom in here. If we can close above if we can get a daily candle closing above the 21-day EMA, which would put us above this area of resistance here, just looking in the past here, the last week. That would be at about $6.65. If we get a daily candle closing above $6.65, really at or above $6.65, especially if we can get a daily candle both opening and closing above 665. If that does happen, guys, I do think we take another quick shot at likely 7. I don't even think it'd be 7. I think it would take. I think we'd take a quick shot at 725. And we'd have to see how it reacts at 725. That would look like it would. Yeah, 725. Yeah, I mean, a little bit of resistance. So, yeah, we have to see how it reacts to 725. If it takes out 725, especially on the first attempt, guys, that's going to just show a ton of strength. If it gets rejected there, of course, that's going to show a whole lot of weakness. If we, but, you know, we'll see. Let's see if we can get it up there. For now, we have tested this area of support here between 590 and 610. I pointed this out numerous times, guys. It's acted as a very relevant support, guys. We've had, if I kind of zoom in here to the 4-hour, we've had 1, 2, 3 major tests of that support, guys. Again, very similar to Bitcoin's 75. $7,500 support, and I do think this is following Bitcoin fairly well. In other words, if Bitcoin breaks below 7,500, I do believe EOS is going to take out that 590 to 610, let's call it $6 support there. And I do think if we do take that out, guys, it's going to be a very quick drop to approximately about 530-ish. And full disclosure, I do have some buy orders sitting down here at 530 in the event that we do end up taking that out. We'll have to kind of wait and see how it ends up playing out. For now, EOS is one of the more bullish coins, but I don't like that it's not able to take out that, again, coming back here to the daily, I don't like that it's not been able to take out that 21-day EMA since breaking below it. So, again, we'll have to watch and wait, see how it ends up playing out. For now, I do think it comes up and tests, probably retests about 660, and we'll have to reevaluate and see how it ends up breaking from there. To the downside, guys, it does look like this 590 to 610. It does look like this area of support is going to hold unless Bitcoin breaks down below 7,500. If that does happen, I do think EOS falls down to about 530. All right, let's quickly take a look at Binance Coin, BNB. BNB, let's see. BNB was flagging out there, guys, looking like it's putting in a what is a bullish pattern here, guys, kind of a descending, broadening wedge. Call it that, call it a bull flag, whatever you want to call it. It is a bullish pattern. We are, let's see what we're looking at from the daily. Daily, you know, we are above the 21-day EMA. We've never had a decisive break below the 21-day EMA, guys. We've gone below it. We've had a close below it. Actually, we had it on the 4th and yesterday on the 9th. But again, following day, bulls immediately pushed it right back up. So we have yet to have an open and close or a decisive break below that 21-day EMA, which is bullish. Binance Coin is bullish. I do have to say, now, if Bitcoin crashes, it's going to crash. There's no question about it. And at that point, I'd be looking at anywhere between 26 and 25.25 for a buy. But as of now, it looks like it's trying to break out. And I would say if we get a daily candle both open and close, actually, you know what? Let me go to the 4-hour there. Yeah, if we get a 4-hour candle opening and closing above about 32.20, if we get a 4-hour candle opening and closing above 32.20, I do think it's going to be a fairly quick rise to about 33.50, where I'm going to have to reevaluate at 33.50. If we get a 4-hour candle opening and closing above 33.50, I do think it creates a new high. I do think we take out the prior high, which is at about 35.47. It does look bullish. To the downside, I would say if we do break below about 29.85, if we get a 4-hour candle opening and closing below 29.85, I do think it'll be a very quick drop down to about 28, very likely 28.80 to $29, somewhere thereabouts. So I can certainly see it falling back down to about $29-ish. We'll have to wait and see kind of how that plays out, but it does look like a stronger coin. It does look like one of the stronger coins. All right, looking at BAT, basic attention token. I'm gonna use the BAT to BTC pairing on this one, guys. I've had a couple requests for it, so and it's a, you know, I don't want to say a smaller relative or a smaller market cap coin. That's a very relative term, but you know, it's certainly not in the top 10. So. I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna use BAT versus Satoshi for now. Looking at the BAT versus Satoshi, we are below the 21-day EMA, and it's been unable. If we zoom in here, guys, we can see it's been unable to break above that zone. We do have a fairly decent area of what was support acting as resistance at about 4,430 Satoshi. So that is one to watch very, very closely, and that is, that's got a lot of confluence with the 21-day EMA there. So if we get a 4-hour candle opening, or excuse me, if we get a daily candle opening and closing above the 21-day EMA, which will likely take us above that 4430 resistance, I do think it'll probably be a fairly quick rise to about 4750 Satoshi. And we do have, just zooming out on the chart here, guys, we do have an area, a decent ascending support line here that was established back in about September of 18. So this is a relevant ascending support line, and we can see that that ascending support line here is now starting to cross and create a decent area, a decent little wedge between resistance and that support line. So I'm going to be watching this area right here very closely. That would suggest that BAT is looking to break out. Now, could it be? It could be up, could be down. Again, that's extremely frustrating to hear from an analyst. I know that, guys. I know that's frustrating. It'd be much easier for me to just pick a side, and if I'm wrong, I just say, well, hey, you know, not everyone can be right. But, you know, honestly, I think there are better coins that you could trade right now. If you're looking at a long-term hold, I think that BAT is one of your better, one of your stronger long-term holds, in my opinion. Not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor at all. But I do think if you're looking at a hold for the long term, BAT definitely is a, and again, in my opinion, is a good coin to hold for the long term. As far as trading, I don't think, until we do get above, until we break this ascending support line, or if we break above this resistance line at about 44.40 Satoshi, 44.30 Satoshi, until one of those two things happens, guys, it just doesn't look like a tradable coin to me. Now, once we do, if we do break below this ascending support line here, I do think it can drop down to as low as, you know, very quickly as well, down to about 3,500 to 3,530 Satoshi. This is area of support right here. So, you know, be very careful with BAT if you are trading it, guys, but really I'd like to see it break above. It is one of your, you know, in the last, especially versus BTC, it's been one of your weaker coins. In other words, it's just been unable to break above that 21-day EMA since, let's see, the last time we were above it was on May the 2nd. So yeah, it's not had a great track record here in the last month or so, but you know, doesn't mean we can't break out to the upside. Certainly, it does look like we're getting to a point to where it is going to make a larger move one way or another. All right, checking Ethereum. Let's see, Ethereum, we did test that area of support. Of course, we had this massive area of support between 230 and 220. Did come back down, had a nice, strong test of that support. Bulls were able to push it right back up. I don't like that it did not break above the 21-day EMA. Again, that's an extremely relevant zone. I don't like that it was unable to break above the 21-day EMA yet. Doesn't mean that we can't. Certainly we can. And if we do, we can see that we've got a relatively decent area of resistance right around 250. But I do think if we get a daily candle opening and closing above the 21-day EMA, that'll likely bring us above that 250. And if we get a daily candle opening and closing above 250, I do think that we take a shot at least 265, 270, at least this zone right up here. Between 260, 270, if you're looking for a very quick scalp, that might be one to do it. If we get a daily candle opening and closing above 273, let's call it 275. We get a daily candle opening and closing above 275. Again, I do think that will be bullish, and I do think that even though we've got this massive area of resistance, this massive supply zone between about 280 and 300, I do think if we take out 275, that's going to be a very good signal to possibly front run that. And of course, I'd be looking at, I think it very quickly comes up to about 290, 295-ish. But of course, the major area, the lid on this thing is 300. If we take out 300, if we get a daily candle opening and closing above 300, guys, again, there's a whole lot of space between 300 and really 400, and I wouldn't even say 400. I'd say more like 420. A whole lot of room to run between 300 and 420. So that's kind of the lid that we're going to be keeping an eye on. To the downside, if we do take out 220. You know, even if we take out 230, if we get a daily candle both opening and closing below 230, you know, I think very likely we take out 220. If we do take out 220, it'll be a very quick drop down to about 185. And 185 Ethereum is a must buy in my opinion. Again, not financial advice, but I do think that's, in my opinion, I will pick up a very substantial amount of Ethereum right around 185 if we do end up coming that low. Not saying we're going to. Again, it's stuck between resistance and support, and it's more of a waiting game. Let's see which one breaks first. All right, let's go ahead and check Litecoin. Litecoin is looking, man, Litecoin continues to look very bullish. We have now broken into, we were watching this area last time between about 115 and 116. We got obviously a massive breakout above that zone, guys, came right into that area of resistance. We were watching between 121 and 127, found resistance right at the top of that zone, right where we would have expected it, and we have yet to have a strong rejection. Let me go to the 4-hour. Yeah, and it's been holding there for the last 8 to 12 hours. Now, a little bit concerning. Looking at the 4-hour MACD, we are seeing a little bit of bearish divergence. Only on the 4-hour. Let me go to the daily. Actually, we're seeing it on the daily too. Yeah, we're seeing it on not only the MACD, not only the histogram there, but also on the daily RSI. Yeah, that's interesting. So the chart without rid of that. Without looking at without looking at our indicators, the chart looks bullish. We've created a new high. Yeah, and it's holding into that area of resistance strong. So let's wait and see how this ends up playing out, guys. You know, our indicators are suggesting possible, are suggesting a little bit of bearish divergence, at least showing that for now. If we get a daily candle opening and closing above 227 here, I'm going to get bullish. If we get a daily candle opening and closing above 227, I do think we take a run at 140 to 145. I'd like to see that bearish divergence clear. I'd like to see us come back down and retest this area right around 120 to 121 and have that start acting as support. If we get a nice bounce off that zone, I'm extremely bullish. Pulling out to the weekly on Litecoin, the weekly is very bullish. Man, that's a hard one, man. That's very interesting. Yeah, Litecoin is. If we get, again, I'm going to go, if we get a daily candle opening and closing above 227, I do think this thing continues up to about 140, 145. If we get a pullback, I'm going to be watching 120 to 121 very closely. If we break down below 120 again, then yeah, that may in fact clear that divergence. I'm not going to get too excited about that actually, but I'm going to be watching I'm going to be watching 115 very closely. If we break below 115, then I get bearish on in the short term, bearish on Litecoin. I do think if we do break below 115, that very likely we're going to come back down and retest at least this at least $100 if we break below 115. I think a retesting of the 100 to 105 region is very likely. We're not there yet though, guys. Litecoin is looking bullish, and as long as we remain in this zone above 120, I have to be bullish on Litecoin. All right, and finally ending with the coin everybody loves to hate, Ripple. Ripple looks. We had a nice bounce. Ripple came back down here, tested our area of support that we've been pointing out for a long time now, between about 39 and 37 cents, guys. We tested deep into that zone. Bulls were a nice strong bounce off that zone, guys. Bulls were able to follow through. We're looking at the 4-hour chart now, and we're finding resistance right at that 21 period moving average on the 21 period exponential on the 4-hour chart. Let's go to the daily. Looking at the daily, rejected right off the 21 exponential on the daily. So yeah, if we can see a daily candle, if we can even get a daily candle to close up above this 21 exponential, which would take us to about 41 cents. If we get a daily candle closing at about 41 cents, I do think that we take another run at about 42.7 to 43 cents is a very likely, if we can take out that 21 exponential on the daily, I do think we take a shot at about 43 cents. Really, 42.6 to 43 cents, I do think would be a logical target. And of course, we'll have to reassess to see how Ripple reacts at that zone. But for now, I do like we had a nice little bounce off that area. If we come in here and look at our, looking at the daily MACD RSI, not showing us. Not showing us too much. Let's look at the 4-hour. Looking at the 4-hour, a little bit of hidden bullish divergence there, which would make sense. We're kind of seeing that follow through now. So yeah, the magic area to watch, I do think, is going to be this the top of that 21 exponential, which is right around 40.5 to 41 cents. We take that out, I think we're coming up quickly to about 42.7 to 43 cents. And we'll have to see how it reacts off that area. To the downside, I do think if we come back down and retest this zone, if we do break below about 39.3, I do think that it could be a very quick drop to about 38.3. So yeah, and that would be, yeah, we could that's going to be a decent area to watch. What I'd like to see to confirm a bullish move here, I'd like to see a retesting of about 39.3, and I'd like to see 39.3 start acting as support. If that does happen, I start to get very bullish on Ripple. If that breaks down, of course, we start looking at targets down around 38.2-ish. And of course, if that takes out, guys, we're looking at dropping down to that $37 target and retesting, possibly creating a double bottom here. We'd have to wait and see how it reacts at that point. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap things there, guys. If you do have any comments, questions, suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, appreciate an upvote if you have enjoyed this content. Till next time, guys, please trade safe. Take care of yourselves. This is Workin.